All right, today we're going to be talking all about the Anderson squat, which is named after famous weightlifter Paul Anderson, who was very prominent during the 1950s. In 1955, he won the World Weightlifting Championship, where he broke the clean and jerk world record by doing basically a strict press instead of a jerk. Not only did he destroy the world record, but he did so using a strict press, which is just absolutely unheard of in Olympic weightlifting. And some of his notable PRs, so he got that 440 clean and jerk that was confirmed in competition, and then another confirmed lift of his was a 930 back squat. And that's more of what we're going to be focused on today, is talking about how Paul Anderson got such a huge back squat in a time where nobody was putting up numbers anywhere near the 900s. And just to put things in perspective a little bit, when Paul Anderson hit that 930 squat, the previous world record was 650. So this guy was in a league of his own, and everybody really wanted to know this guy's training methods. What was he doing so different that allowed him to move such incredible weight? Basically, what you're going to do is set a desirable height, either inside of a power rack. So you're going to use the pins in the power rack to set a height that is going to be the starting position for your Anderson, aka pin squat. You can do this in a power rack. You can also do it with plyo boxes if you want to set the barbell on some plyo boxes and control the range of motion that way. That also works. So you're going to start with a weight that's about 10 to 15% above your squat max. Okay, so about 10 to 15% over your 1 rep max. What you're going to do is start off in about a quarter squat with that weight. And you're going to perform an entire workout at that height. And then the next workout that you do, you're going to lower the pins a little bit to increase the range of motion, and you're going to be working the same weight until eventually the pins are below parallel and you're capable of squatting below parallel with that given weight. Now, Paul Anderson recommends lowering the pins by about 2 inches every week. Usually after about 8 to 10 weeks, you should be able to do that weight, the new weight, over the full range of motion. Basically, this is a method of gaining strength, so a method of strength progression where you're slowly increasing the range of motion as opposed to slowly increasing the weight. And just a side note, this can be performed with either front squats or back squats. There isn't one single type of squat that you should be doing in terms of Anderson squatting. A lot of people do pin squats with front squats too. So a huge advantage to using the Anderson squat is the fact that you can't cheat. It's impossible to cheat. Just like with the deadlift, if you can't get the weight up, then you can't get the weight up. So what you're doing is you're completely eliminating the stretch reflex effect that you get from bouncing out of the hole of a squat. And using this method is going to promote a lot more explosive strength against static resistance. It's almost like sort of a deadlift against your upper back, pretty much. The way that Paul Anderson used the Anderson squat to progress is not a recommended method for strength progression nowadays. Now, Anderson got away with it. His physiology just sort of allowed for that. But the majority of people, this method of strength progression, while it is going to lead to very rapid strength progression, you're going to be doing so incompetently. You're going to be a lot less focused on the eccentric phase of each lift, which is eventually over time it's going to lead to lack of control when you're lowering the weight in the full range of motion. Your nervous system is just not used to performing that movement correctly without the pins, and a lot of times when you remove the pins and you start squatting with that full range of motion, you're going to have a lot less control than if you had just trained in the full range of motion to begin with. And another disadvantage of doing the Anderson squat Paul Anderson style is the fact that you're really only able to focus on 1 to 2 movements during the progression phase, as opposed to a modern strength regimen where you're able to focus on your bench press, your overhead press, your deadlift, your squat, maybe your rows, your pull-ups, or something like that. You're able to focus on a lot of different compound lifts. With the Anderson style of training, you're really only able to safely focus on 1 to 2 movements. So we pretty much established that the Anderson style of progression is at best outdated. Yes, if done correctly, it can lead to rapid strength gains, but you are not building competency in the eccentric portion of the lift, and your central nervous system is just not being attenuated correctly. However, the Anderson squat is really, really good at training sticking points. So if you have a very consistent sticking point, let's say it's one foot out of the hole, right? So you can squat below parallel, you get to about 1 foot, and you get stuck. That's where you struggle. If you're gonna fail with the weight, that's where you're gonna fail, is 1 foot out of the hole. So if that is the weakest part of your squat, what you can do is set the pins to that weak point and begin training that as an accessory lift to basically be able to get through that sticking point and make that less of a guaranteed point of failure, if that makes sense. So basically what you're doing is building superior muscle alignment through very specific weak points. So the Anderson squat is perfectly valid as an accessory lift for training sticking points. So in conclusion, the Anderson squat can be used the right way and it can be used the wrong way. If you're using it the original Paul Anderson style, you will be able to build strength rapidly, but it may not be the most competent way to do so.